A worn-out smuggler takes on the task of delivering a little girl across a ruined country filled with infected mutants. The second episode begins in the capital of Indonesia, Jakarta in 2003. In a small cafe full of patrons, soldiers suddenly arrive, led by a high-ranking army officer. The eyes of those present are drawn to them, but the soldiers are looking for a modest woman sitting at the very end of the hall. A little later, she is being transported in a vehicle. The general apologizes for interrupting her meal, to which the woman asks if they have made a mistake. However, the important official states that they were looking specifically for her, a professor of mycology, a branch of biology dedicated to the study of fungi. The professor is escorted to a research facility, guarded by armed security at the entrance. Inside, she is offered the chance to examine highly curious samples without any prior explanation. She must form her own expert opinion. Upon examining the samples under a microscope, she identifies them as cordyceps. The professor questions why the fungus was treated with chlorazole, to which she is told that it is a standard practice when handling biological material taken from a human. This statement deeply shocks the woman. Cordyceps cannot survive in the human body. The general simply shakes his head in response. Later, the woman, now in a protective suit, is brought into an operating room. A corpse with a bullet wound to the head lies on the table. The professor examines it and finds a bite mark on the ankle. Making an incision with a scalpel, she discovers traces of the fungus thriving under the skin. Looking into the corpse's mouth, she pulls out a cluster of fungal tendrils. They move, exhibiting unnatural signs of life. Horrified, the mycologist rushes out of the room. The general then informs her that they have discovered 14 infected individuals spreading the contagion and asks her to create a vaccine. However, the mycologist explains that there is no cure for cordyceps. The only way to stop the infection is to bomb the city. Realizing that civilization is doomed, the professor asks to be taken home so she can spend her final days with her family. The story shifts to the future, to the year 2023. Ellie, a teenage girl infected with cordyceps, is peacefully sleeping on a grass-covered floor in a half-ruined building, where sunlight pours through a hole in the roof. Her companions, smugglers Tess and Joel, sit across from her with weapons at the ready. They've just learned she's infected and are wary of any signs of aggression. Joel asks to see the bite again. Several weeks have passed since the infection, yet the girl still shows no symptoms. She explains that Marlene, the leader of the rebel group known as the Fireflies, tested her daily for signs of the disease. When the girl steps away to relieve herself, the smugglers discuss their complicated situation. Joel doesn't trust Ellie. He wants to take her back and break off their deal with the Fireflies. His partner, however, persuades him to finish the job and escort the girl to the Capitol building, where the rebels have a base. When Ellie returns, Tess asks why the Fireflies are so invested in her. The girl explains that somewhere out west, there's another research facility where scientists are working on a cure and her immunity might be the key to finding it. Tess insists they need to see this through, but Joel remains skeptical and Ellie's joking imitation of infection symptoms only makes him more uneasy. Still, the smugglers head out to continue their journey. Ellie sees the overgrown, half-destroyed city for the first time. Under the bright sunlight, the remains of civilization look bleak and depressing. As they make their way through the empty streets, the group comes across a massive crater in the asphalt. Tess explains that it's the result of a bombing meant to stop the pandemic. As it turns out, even such drastic measures didn't work. While heading toward a hotel to get around a blocked path, Ellie wonders aloud where all the infected are. She also shares how she got bitten. She had sneaked into a boarded-up mall to see what was inside. It's revealed that she's an orphan with no living relatives. As they cross a flyover, they suddenly hear terrifying screams in the distance, the infected known as clickers, communicating with one another. The hotel lobby is flooded with rainwater. Ellie warns that she can't swim, but the water is only knee-deep. As they wade through, she plays around behind the front desk, pretending to be a concierge and a guest, until she suddenly bumps into a dried-up corpse, which startles her. With Joel's support, she manages to keep going. Up on the second floor, the path is blocked by debris. To open a way around through a locked door, Tess asks Joel to give her a boost. Ellie rightly points out that she's the smallest and could squeeze through more easily, but they're unwilling to risk the girl, whose importance far outweighs that of a smuggler. After Tess climbs over the debris, Joel and Ellie are left alone. To break the awkward silence, Ellie plays with her pocket knife, which surprises Joel. She begins asking him about his smuggling work and his relationship with Tess. She's also curious about the infected, how they behave and how many Joel has killed. Soon Tess returns, shouting for Joel to lower his weapon. The group steps out onto a balcony, where they're met with a dismal view of the street below. Infected bodies are lying in clusters near the building. The fungal network is slowly spreading this way. Tess notes that on their last visit, The bodies were still inside the building, but now they've moved out into the street. The infected react to sunlight by turning away from it. She also explains that the fungal network is all connected. Disturbing tendrils in one place can send a signal to infected in another. The smugglers decide to take a safer route. The entrance to the building is covered in fungal growth, but it appears dry. Joel tests it by hitting it with the butt of his rifle. Convinced that the infected inside likely died of dehydration, they head in, flashlights at the ready. Inside, beams of light reveal desiccated bodies that have become part of the fungi. However, around the corner, Ellie stumbles upon a much fresher corpse, with blood that hasn't even dried yet. Tess suggests the man may have been injured outside and crawled in here to die, but Joel isn't so sure. He tells his companions not to make a sound. Any surviving infected might hear them. The group slowly sneaks up to the second floor, trying not to make a noise. But the stairs creak under their feet, and the dried-up corpses crunch if stepped on. Nevertheless, the travelers manage to reach a museum-like room where artifacts from a long-gone era are displayed behind glass. As soon as they enter, the corridor ceiling collapses with a crash, covering everything in concrete dust and creating a deafening noise. In response, a distinct clicking sound echoes from deeper inside the building. A clicker is wandering the halls, searching for prey. Joel uses hand signals to tell Ellie to stay silent. The mutant is blind but reacts to sound. Their caution doesn't help. The clicker still detects them, forcing Joel to open fire. The shots don't kill the infected, but they attract another one. While the others flee, Joel reloads his revolver. The clicker roams between the exhibits, trying to track him down. Joel spots Ellie hiding and tries to get her to safety. But he accidentally steps on a shard of glass, revealing his position. He's forced to shoot again. After several bullets, the infected finally drops. But another clicker arrives. Tess, now back, lands a precise axe blow to its head. Joel finishes it off with a shot, and they make their way onto the roof. Ellie has been bitten, blood is visible on her arm. But since she's immune, better her than her companions. She bandages the wound and carefully crosses to the next rooftop using a narrow makeshift plank bridge. From there they see a grim view of the ruined city, including the final destination of their journey, the Capitol building. Tess reminds her partner that, for the first time in years, humanity has a real chance at survival. They walk through overgrown streets without further obstacles. Near the Capitol stands an abandoned Firefly's truck, but the cabin is empty, and the seats are soaked in fresh blood. Joel cautiously creeps forward, examining the bodies under the wheels and the empty truck bed. A trail of blood leads into the building, and the travelers follow it inside. However, inside they are met with a heartbreaking sight. All the Fireflies are dead. With his trained eye, Joel quickly deduces that a single infected was responsible for the carnage. With no one left to receive the package, Tess falls into despair. She searches for a radio, a map, and asks Ellie where exactly the Fireflies were planning to take her. Tess wants to get the girl to the scientists, believing it's their only chance to find a cure. Joel refuses, but it's revealed that Tess has already been infected. The fungus is spreading beneath her skin, and it's only a matter of time before she turns into a monster. In her final moments, she asks Joel to fulfill one last request. Escort Ellie to the Fireflies research camp somewhere out west. Their conversation is cut short by a suddenly reanimated infected. Joel kills it, but the fungal network has already sent out a signal, and a massive horde of infected is rushing in from the streets. Joel says it's time to leave, but Tess knocks over nearby barrels of fuel. He realizes what she's planning and silently listens as she begs him one last time to protect the girl. Joel drags a resisting Ellie out of the building, leaving Tess behind in a puddle of gasoline. When the infected burst into the room, Tess flicks her lighter, but it refuses to ignite. One of the infected notices her and approaches slowly, sensing the fungus already spreading within her. The mutant reaches toward her with tendrils from its mouth, merging with her in a grotesque, poisonous kiss. At that moment, the lighter in Tess's hand sparks, and she drops it straight into the pool of fuel. Her deadly plan works exactly as intended. Joel silently turns and walks away, leaving Ellie standing alone in front of the Capitol engulfed in flames. The episode ends here, and their long journey across the country is only just beginning.